Hello, hello. It is September 10th, 2025. This is the state of Nativewind. I am Dan, a maintainer of Nativewind. And
And I'm Mark,
yeah,
the creator of Nativewind,
that
and
may be the
currently very
first time.
cold.
That may be the first time we've actually gotten that
Nailed
like
down, yeah.
right down. Yeah. So huzzah. Um yeah, so today's updates will focus on effectively updates around version 5 of Nativewind, which we're pushing to get out. And fortunately, SDK 54 released today, I think you said, Mark. And
Yeah, like 3
yeah,
hours ago.
yeah. So given that we are tying version 5's release, to the release of SDK 54, we're pretty happy with that. So also, hello, Armand. And yeah, so I guess we'll go through any technical updates as well as docs updates, and then probably wrap it up. So if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to post them in the chat and we'll try to get to them. But yeah, so Mark, what do we got on the technical front of Nativewind version
Cool.
5?
Yeah, so I guess the plan originally was to try and get it out during the preview version of SDK 54. Unfortunately, there was actually a fast refresh bug that if you were testing the SDK 54, you probably experienced it. It was from versions 12 to 16. So we weren't able to release it because this bug absolutely destroyed Nativewind. Essentially, every time you added a new class to your app, your whole app would lose its state and fully remount again. So it wasn't a very pleasant development experience. That PR got merged. The fix for the PR got merged just before the release of SDK 54. So we're going to have to actually test it out ourselves, get down the new version, make sure that fix works fine and it all looks good. The other technical change that we did is we use a library under the hood called Lightning CSS. Uh, we now use the same version of that's provided by Expo as part of the Metro config as well. So there were some last minute changes to the SDK 54 for us looking to doing that as well. So we just need to retest those changes, but they're all going good. If that testing looks fine, then we're going to release the public release. But yeah, we need to test everything on the live SDK and make sure it's all good before people jump in and start using it.
Yeah, that Lightning CSS one is going to be really nice for folks who rely on EAS's deployment services or build services, because so many people would run into issues of mismatched Lightning CSS versions. So that's going to be really great. The docs bit, I was going to go through the installation, and I was hoping you would go through the migration blog if you haven't already, to just make sure it's up to date with those changes. But yeah, so I'll just go through the docs. We'll probably, I think you had said, Mark, that you had largely gotten the changes that you wanted to publish in there. I don't know if you've pushed to the branch yet, but I figured we probably could merge those, or basically make that not necessarily the default, but again, that
Yeah.
pre-release.
Yeah, put the banner on the top of the site.
Yeah, yeah, and so we could put that up this week, theoretically, assuming
Oh yeah, that's
what I
definitely the
just
plan.
said, yeah, is
Yeah.
accurate. So yeah, and then people can kind of explore and play around, and especially those who are adventurous and like to go right into new SDK releases from Expo. You can play around with version 5 of Nativewind, and as they sort of patch things up, we'll use all the feedback that you provide. We welcome all of it to ensure that version 5 is smooth with all of that. I'm going to continue going through the GitHub issues and begin to separate them into stuff pertaining to Nativewind stuff pertaining to React Native CSS. Largely, probably a lot of stuff will be React Native CSS. So we should have a better sense of that. I'm also going to begin making the separation of issues where people are looking for help and guidance with Nativewind versus actual issues with Nativewind or React Native CSS. And we'll try to like front load the latter category to be a higher priority, and sort of in the background be working on a way to address how do we make the Nativewind experience itself better so that people feel more informed as to how to use these libraries properly. So that's the update there. Yeah. No blog posts coming up other than updates to that migration guide, I think. So
Yeah, probably just that the new migration guide. But then I think we'll start doing a series of blog posts after release of the new styling changes as well, trying to showcase some of them.
Mhm.
Probably starting with like background image, letting people understand how that works.
Yeah, Arman is asking about showing some sort of like benchmarks or performance implications of using version 5 in Nativewind compared to just like, default styling in React Native and or with like Nativewind v version 4. Mark, you and I kind of talked about this in the way of like indirectly with respect to a testing library you pulled up the other day. Um, I think our conclusion on this front is largely that you're going to experience, especially in like more complex UIs, like you might experience some like performance hits relative to especially like default styling. Um, Nativewind
Maybe
shouldn't
I'll
be
just
causing any
jump in.
performance issues. Yeah. But I was going to say
Yeah,
like no, it shouldn't be causing any issues on like simple implementations.
yeah. I mean, yes, you should still have quite performant styling. So there's always the holy trinity of good UX experience, features, and performance. Pick two, and we've always said that the two we pick are good UX and features. And because of that performance, we aim to be around the middle of the pack for styling libraries. So we're not trying to be the most performant library out there. There's other libraries that's their goal, and they have less features and different UX experience because of that. So we're still trying to be quite performant. We're not trying to tank your application. We're trying to make it so that when you use it, everything still seems fine. But if you do have to have a high performance page, then maybe Nativewind isn't the right thing for you. You know, like if you've got like a stock taking app or stock trading app and stuff is like flashing colors and you've got animations all over the place, maybe that's not the best solution for this library. But for the performance between V5 and V4, it's going to matter a lot on how you do your styles because V5 kind of encourages more of using CSS variables to formulate your what am I saying? Your theme and kind of like your styles. We try and do some optimizations around your CSS variables to try and make them a bit more performant. But if they're too complex, they could actually slow down your experience with V5. I'm not saying it's going to like tank your performance. I'm just saying that like it might be like 10 milliseconds slower overall to load up your application or something like that. You know, it's not like we're trying to ruin everything. It just might be something like that. But I don't think we'll release anything for statistics on it just because it's not our focus right now. You know, we want to showcase the better UX, the better features that we have, and then performance is going to come more so in time as those things kind of settle down. Um, we have got a lot of things on the horizon about performance. One of the things I'm really looking forward to actually looking into is Reanimated released a package called React Native Worklets, which is the kind of core package that makes Reanimated quite fast. So Reanimated runs its animations in a separate thread, different to the UI thread that your React Native app runs in. And that package is now free to use for people. And we are kind of positioned in a way that we could actually take advantage of that quite easily. So once we've got our V5 kind of settled down with the issues, I'm going to try and look into seeing if we can use that package to actually perform all of our style calculations, the one that we need to do at runtime, in a different thread to the main UI thread, which should dramatically speed up rendering.
Yeah, I definitely see with different implementations of styling, whether between different libraries, at the very least in different projects, you just have people using different stuff. And I imagine the libraries that are going to index very heavily on performance will probably, I I would be interested to see a library that does performance really well also handle like animations really well in accordance with styling. And so you're always going to sort of, to Mark's earlier point of that holy trinity, you're always going to have to identify your values and kind of understand what's going on. To some people, like they really like the interface, the utility classes, and the whole Tailwind bit. So yeah, I think it's better to analyze what your needs are and identify on the performance front, like what is good, like what is great, um, and see if a tool fits that need. At the end of the day, these things are all tools. So you should understand enough to be able to select the right tool for the job. It is highly unlikely that you're ever going to come across a single tool that sort of does everything perfectly well. So, um, that being said, we, might show something later. I mean, there's absolutely no timeline on this of like the version 4 of like version versus version 5. But being that performance isn't really like, the top priority for us, like I wouldn't look for any time soon. But if you're interested in pulling something together or highlighting that and you want to lead the charge on that and run it by us and be like, hey, here's what I came up with. What are your thoughts? We'd totally be happy to maybe do like a blog post or social media post or something like that to better inform folks about that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, but also with these tests, the performance tests, you need to make sure they're actually testing real world scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just do the classic, can I render out 1,000 divs as fast as possible? And some of the UI frameworks, like they're great at doing that. Some of them are terrible. Funny enough, Nativewind seems to go kind of well in that test. And I think that that's a misrepresentation of the performance of Nativewind. I'll take it, but the real world test should actually be actually in a real world scenario. So an app interface where you have different styles for different like hover effects, active effects, have media queries. For example, now if you're an iPad app, I believe that they just changed the requirements for that all iPad apps moving forward must be fully resizable by the user. So you have to have all the listeners setting up for width and height dimensions and have a fluid interface for that. These are the real world scenarios that your users are going to use. To render 1,000 divs, realistically, your users should never see that because you should either hide it behind a splash screen or hide it behind a loading screen if you're doing any sort of like heavy loading like that. But how quickly does your app react to styles from user input? Like that is something a user is going to notice, and really that's where the performance testing should be. So yeah, there are performance benchmarks out there. I think they're pretty rubbish. I've spoken to the other styling library creators out there. They're not happy with them either. So if you are looking into this, I think all the styling library authors would love it if someone actually came and made a good benchmark for it and not the render 1,000 divs.
Yeah. I also forgot to mention, this is completely separate. Armand, hopefully we answered your question. But we recently crossed, like in this out of the last week, we crossed 300,000 weekly downloads, which is 3 times what we were at the beginning of this year. And while my target for October, I think it was either sometime in October, I want to say was like 500,000 weekly downloads. I don't know how close we are. I mean, that seems like ambitious still, but that's cool. We're coming up close on the 7,000 stars as well. So I'll probably do like some kind of social post about this. But um, yeah, I am sort of on the wrapping up phase of the making people love Nativewind, and I'm now moving more on to the make LLMs love Nativewind bit, starting with the installation page. Obviously, I've gone in and made some modifications slightly there, mostly just nothing technical has changed, but just like user experience wise. And at some point, I'll be adding like URL search param support so that your selections of frameworks and package managers should be reflected in the URL. And I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do this, of helping like folks use it with LLMs and stuff, but allowing folks to like copy an entire page and be like, use this as context, and give that to the LLM or whatever. Um, all kinds of things like that. So if you happen to know a lot about that, please hit me up in my DMs because I'd love to learn more about it. And if you're interested in contributing, yeah, that's definitely a pretty large focus on, or top of mind focus for me with respect to the documentation. Um, Thorben is asking about a preview link for the version 5 doc/setup. We do. I guess it's only accessible to us, right? You can see the preview in
Oh,
Vercel,
maybe.
but it's not public, so we would have to merge it. Thorben, I would probably just wait sometime before Friday of this week. We'll probably just
Yeah,
merge it
I think
to main,
before
and it'll just
Friday.
be available, and you'll see a little like banner. Um, yeah, so that's my recommendation. Otherwise, I think the preview that we have right now is like exclusive to the Nativewind team. So, um, yeah, I think that's largely it. Mark, did you have anything else you wanted to share?
Not really. I actually just want to get into testing this SDK version, find out
Yeah.
what's different. I actually upgraded while we're on this call. If you, I'm looking away trying to things, and we've got 5 failing tests, and I'm like, why? What changed? Why are they now failing tests after upgrading? Anyway,
As
which
long as it's
always
not in
good.
the hundreds, I'm pretty happy.
No, no, no,
So,
no. They're only 5. But they're pretty confusing tests
yeah.
to don't understand why they failed. So I have to
Okay.
dig into that. Yeah, because I want to get out this preview version. I want to get people using it. I think
Yeah.
maybe if we got out V5 and it was good and stable, we could actually hit the 500,000. Not by October, but maybe by November.
I
Um,
I want to say I'm going to set a goal for by the end of October we have 500,000. I think it's
that's
possible.
that's crazy, but 2
I
months
think it's
maybe.
possible. Would you have guessed
Uh,
that we'd be at 300? I mean, it's
no,
like 325,000 I think today. So, would you have guessed that at the beginning of this year, Like
definitely not. It looks like it was basically from June
yeah.
to I guess now because it just
Yeah.
went up this week. We went up 100,000. So what's that like?
I'm telling you, dude, it's
3 months.
possible.
3 months.
There's a
Wow.
chance. There's a chance. So, um yeah, I think version 5 is going to be really popular. The second version 5 drops, people are going to be like, when's version 6 coming out? And that's a whole different thing. In that there isn't really probably going to be a version 6. Um,
Not for the Nativewind library.
but for React
We've
Native CSS,
yes,
yes.
there will be
So
major updates. More things coming there.
yeah, so but I'm excited for next week being the first week when people can properly start messing around with version 5. Finally using Tailwind version 4 in their projects. And at that point, we're just, improving that. So, yeah, a lot of exciting stuff coming. So, Yeah, thanks for joining, everybody. We'll see you on the other side next week. We'll see you on the other side of version 5.
All right, catch you guys. See ya.